just some modeling, just for consideration. We're not and I've got the foreshadowed motion, but we still need to go through the motion to accept all the reports and things like that. But just a consideration of what those various suggestions might look like. Any questions on any of those?
Janine, no, I'm not going to ask for a different one. The figures that were up in the spreadsheet just before, what figure do they contain for natural heritage?
15.
15, so it's 15 right across. So that
Yeah.
7.2 contained the 15, et cetera,
Correct.
et cetera. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's the second and third year that's really.
So it depends on effectively the determinant. So it is $15 was what I'd modelled it on. So, you know, if council's entertaining at $12, it's for how long that is in place for is the change.
Okay, great. So we've had that modeled. So councillors have that in their minds. Okay, we're going to go to the first motion, which is all around receiving the reports. Happy to receive the report. So I'm going to move her and Councillor Nicol and a second in Councillor Kneebone. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So this is the first one, which has been foreshadowed by Councillor Kneebone. That council proceeds with option 2. This is the $15 per property. Do I have a seconder? Sorry, was that Councillor Hodge? All right. All those in favor?
Madam Chair, what's
Sorry?
the foreshadowed motion, the difference?
There is no difference.
There is no difference, yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Do we have to do the calling names out when it's quite a clear division or not?
Stop it.
We do.
Stop it.
So the motion that is on the floor is that council will proceed with option 2 to increase the natural heritage rate to $15 per property. Noting this would result in an increase in rates revenue of approximately $1.2 million, which is an estimated 0.9% increase in rates revenues from current ratepayers. So I'll call your names.
Could I just have a quick comment before Dave asks for the vote?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, as a mover. I don't know why you guys, or why some of you want to increase rates in year 2 with that $12, $15 option. It's an election year. I shouldn't say that too loudly, but look, we've consulted on the number. We've got a lot of submissions and support, so that I think it's the way to go. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? I suppose before we go through, anybody else want to? Sorry, we need mics so the people online can't hear.
Or can I move an amendment?
Yes.
Can I move an amendment that it's the $12 first year, $12 second year, and $15 the third year? Which brings the rates down for the first year and the second year as well. I just feel as though, again, you know, I've said it before, but I just emphasize in this in my amendment that I think the ratepayers deserve and being in that 6% in the first year, because that's what we put out in the long-term plan.
So we've got a mover of that amendment. Do we have a second? Councillor Cookson? Sure.
I'm not indicating by what I'm going to say as to what I'm going to vote, but I look at the fact that 42%, which is not more than 50% of the people said $15. It's the biggest group, but it's not the majority. Majority supported at least 868, because if you look at the 15, that includes the 868. So there's an overwhelming majority that supported the 868. So by doing a midpoint between the 868 and the 15 is more reflective, in my view, of what the community is telling us. And that's an observation that I make. I personally will now tell you what, I will tell you what I personally support is the 15, but the issue is I'm pointing out that the majority have supported 868 or somewhere in between the 15. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councillor Clarkson.
Well, I had my light on before Councillor Downard, and I was going to speak in support of
Yeah.
Stu's motion, so I will make some
You
comments.
can do that. I will have to take the amendment first. but
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I think it's really important to recognise here deep in biodiversity debt the Waikato region is. This is the key point sitting behind it. And the, I guess, the very long period of time when no adjustment was made for inflation in the Natural Heritage Fund rate. We've heard all that before, though. That's the point. We've been through this multiple times. While I'm interested in the comment that Noel has just made around this midpoint, the fact remains that the largest number of people and the quality and quantity of the submissions that we sat through also, I don't believe you can do the sort of mathematical calculation that Councillor Smith has just done and assume you know what people would have done if they didn't have the three options that were actually put in front of them. I'm sorry, Noel.
No, I accept it.
So the point I wanted to make really is that we have been through this. There's an enormous amount of for it, and I believe now is the time to rectify. There's a long-standing natural capital or biodiversity debt that this region still carries and will continue to carry, even when we've been working away using a new rate, $15, for a considerable period of time, because impacts have developed essentially over more than a century of the way we have looked after our land, or not looked after our land. Point that I would make, and of course, it's not just terrestrial; it's our water and our coastal and marine. So I'll leave it at that, but I'll be holding out for the $15.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, thank you. I will be not holding out for the 15. I'm going to go for the 12 because I believe that while we have a biological deficit, we also have a financial deficit, and it's facing many of the people. We promised them a 6% rate increase, and we're now looking at 7.2. I believe it's unethical to go out with something beyond 6% or in that vicinity. And the preferred option that we went out with was 8.6, which covered inflation. Coming to 12 is certainly meeting that, and it's almost all of the district councils came back with the 8.6 as the preferred option. So in my mind, many of the people who came with the 15 had vested interests in that. So thank you.
Councillor Marr.
Thank you. Can I just get clarification, Janine? So this fund is open now for applications. What pool of money are they applying for? Would it be this, say, if it did go up, would it be the increased pool, or would it be the pool as it sits currently?
I'm assuming that if the funds are open at the moment, that is trying to take applications for the next financial year, which would be against the higher value. That's an assumption, but I think At the moment, all of those funds are exhausted anyway. Oh, Patrick's here. Yeah, so he's nodding.
Bar the small scale. There's no more on the small scale either.
There was
Well, why'd we open applications for funding if we got no money?
In anticipation, I think, of the New Year's funding.
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah, so
hello,
Hi.
hey,
Patrick.
Patrick.
So there's a small scale funds open at the moment. So that's for this financial year. We haven't pre-allocated that fund. We don't. So we have an amount every year that we give out. So that's different. This is the natural heritage rate, which covers the Environmental Initiatives Fund and the Natural Heritage Fund applications.
Which are cleaned out, yep.
I'm just thinking in terms of this, we've got the biodiversity, the natural heritage rate, but there were also through this LTP process, we have talked about increased investment in biodiversity and biosecurity through our other teams, right? So just in terms of this is not the only way that we are choosing to invest in this space. It's this and that.
Yeah, and Patrick can talk, I guess, more broadly about that, but even just within this fund, from about year 3 onwards, year 4 onwards, we see signalled increases coming through anyway. So what I've been capturing, I guess, is the change from what we currently have in the baseline to these new rates. But Patrick, do you want to talk, I mean, more generally around the biodiversity business case, I guess, biodiversity, biosecurity?
Yeah, and my surface just went flat. So the other areas of investment that we've proposed is coyote protection, wilding pine management, marine and freshwater biosecurity, and alligator weed management.
Okay, just wanted to raise everybody's awareness that this is not the only additional investment that we're looking at. There's the other as well.
Me.
All right. Oh, Councillor Hodge.
So 12, 12 and 15, 3 years. What happens in 4th year going forward? Is it then goes 15, 15? Because the way I see this in the long-term plan consultation, it's $15 per property from now forever,
So,
right? So what we're doing is saving $3 this year, $3 next year, and then it's going to go to $15 for the rest of our life anyway. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what $3 is going to do to all of this. Thank you.
Only half full of cup.
yes,
Just no comment on that?
I don't need a comment.
Okay. Councillor Smith.
Just whichever decision we go for here, that whichever the amendment or the substantive motion, I'm concerned about year 4, 5, 6 and 7 and out years, that we end up in the same position that once inflation is caught up to the 12 or the 15, what do we do then? And I don't have a problem through the first 3 years of going 12, 15 or 15, 15, 15. I'll vote in a minute on that. The reality is I would like to see somewhere in the motions and ask the movers and seconders of each to think about inflation proofing it beyond in 4 years and out, because otherwise in 15 years when we complain that we haven't got enough money, I won't be here then, but others will be. We'll go through this process again. So should we be inflation adjusting it?
Because the preferred option was inflation adjusted, right? The $8.68 was inflation adjusted going forward. The 15 was not.
no, but there is, and it's not inflation, but there is, obviously because it's a per property rate, the revenue generated does increase every year as there are more properties in the region. So it's 1.5% a year as opposed to where inflation's running at the moment. But there is an element of more revenue being generated just because of the way that it's rated. more, yeah. So we're
Because there's
assuming
more
one,
properties.
because we're assuming 1.5% growth in properties on an annual basis.
Oh, well,
Councillor Strange.
Yeah, just to carry on with Councillor Smith's points, I do recall raising, inflation. I think it was in regards to this, it was such a long time ago. But yeah, really do think it's a valid point from year 4 onwards. So not sure how that would be reflected though.
All right. I've got, sorry, yes,
I
Councillor
can't
Newcombe.
remember what the rules are, whether I have my right to reply now before the amendment or, because if the amendment passes, I lose.
He gets a right of reply on the amendment?
Yeah,
Okay.
look, I agree with the point about inflation and further to that, I think it's actually something we need to address, all councils in the country probably need to address, not just with this, but with a whole bunch of things, because it's just too easy to think we're doing our job properly when actually fact we're not. We do it when we're required to with infrastructure stuff, but so I think it's a discussion now that we should have, not just on this, but on a whole bunch of other things, and so that's where I sit there. In terms of 12 versus 15, look, as Katarina just said, it's $3, and we I think we're at risk of trying to make these little percentage numbers on the forecast look good rather than really thinking about what the issue here, and the issue is very clear, as Bruce has pointed out, so I won't be supporting the amendment. Cheers.
All right.
I have one dumb question.
Yes?
I'm not sure, I know it's got nothing to do with this, but we already fund a huge area for its pest proofed, and it's all about biodiversity. So in my thinking, we did 3 years and it's due to come up shortly. With this changes in anything we're doing, how does that affect that? How does the 12, because it's going to be 12 and the 12 and the 15, how's that going to affect that particular, and you all know who I'm talking about, how's that going to affect that, do you think? Because that's totally biodiversity. And we put in years and years and years of money. It's free. I've been here 3 terms now. We started off very low and we're up to the 400,000 mark. They take a big percentage of this $15 friggin' already. So I'm just wondering, people, that do we realize that we already put a lot of our funding to this big, huge area that does the biggest thing is pest proof, and it's all about biodiversity. Just a thought, we're paying for that now.
From this fund. Yeah. So this that's probably the cornerstone project that receives funding from the Natural Heritage Fund. I guess the uplift in funding potentially allows for some reconsideration of the level of support they receive.
Councillor Clarkson.
Yeah, I just wanted to assist Councillor Hodge with the question, really. And it's probably best that Patrick chips in at some point, because it comes down to the way the Natural Heritage Fund is compartmentalised into different styles of funding. But the reality is that the Maungatautari money is about to run out. And Maungatautari, like many other community-funded projects around our region, is in this endless struggle to find future funding to keep going. And thinking about the broader context, it's critical here that we think through the broader context too. And the broader context is that the Department of Conservation and central government are basically withdrawing services and funding from a whole range of activities. And the problem for the Waikato comes down to, where does our project sit in a national prioritisation system? And so projects like Maungatautari, projects like Moiho, we had those people come in and talk to us. All of these projects are fighting a contest of competitive funding at a national scale to access, for example, support from the Department of Conservation. Our role as a regional council, I believe, is contained within the RMA, even when it is revised or reviewed. The guts of the RMA still requires us as a regional council to be the people who provide the leadership and take the responsibility for the protection, restoration and conservation of our Waikato region. This is why I'm insistent on sticking with the $15 and not quibbling about $3 here or $3 there. On the scale of things, what is this magic figure 7%? Where the hell did that come from? And no, we did not make a promise to the electorate about 6%. We put out a draft LTP, for consultation. Come on. Think about the scale of the problem in our region. Think about the withdrawal of support and funding that's going to progressively occur from other parties over this next period. And actually, we are a key player in our regional conservation, restoration, and protection. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to, oh, sorry, I'll go to you as the mover of the amendment, and then I'm going to put the amendment first.
Thanks, Madam
Councillor
Chair.
Downard.
Councillor Clark, I endorse everything you say, and this is a hard one for me. And I know that we're only talking $3, but $3 is a lot when you look at the overall picture on how many ratepayers there are, you know, and that from that 7.2 to 6.7 is a huge thing for us to go out of this council and say to our ratepayers, hey, we've fought to bring it down to the 6.7. And unfortunately, you know, we're still doubling to what it was, the $5.68 to $12, or if not more. And, you know, I do believe, you know, in myself that I advocated for this the most, you know, as like a lot of other councillors in here, that we needed this. I mean, I'm an outdoors person. I love the wetlands, and I love the countryside and stuff like that. So, but I do believe that, forget about the $3. It might only sound like $3 on that, but it is a huge difference when we go out from 7.2 to 6.7.
All right, so we've got the amendment of increasing the natural heritage rate in the first and second year to $12, and the third year increase to $15 per property. We've had a division called. Oh, I'll let you work through that today.
Okay. I'll call out your names. Can you please indicate, turn your mics on first, whether you support, oppose or abstain from this amendment? Councillor Strange?
Abstain. Oh, no, not. No. Why do I have to go first? Against.
This is the amendment.
Yep.
This is the 12-12-15.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith?
Support.
Councillor Hughes?
Abstain.
Councillor Graff?
Support.
Councillor Nicol?
Against.
Councillor Hodge?
Against.
Councillor Downard?
Support.
Councillor Smith? Councillor Cookson?
Support.
Councillor Kneebone?
Against.
Councillor Mahuta?
Abstain.
Councillor Marr?
Oppose.
Councillor Clarkson?
Against.
Councillor Story?
Against.
So we have 4 in support, 8 against, 2 abstentions, sorry. The amendment is lost.
All right, we'll now go to the substantive motion. This is an increase to $15 from So this is option 2, increase the natural heritage rate to $15 per property.
If this is opposed, it's just status quo. Is that correct?
If this motion
It's lost.
is lost, motion is lost. Well, somebody could do another motion, right?
There's a motion and it's lost, then you have no rate, in my view. You'd have to check standing orders, but
The status quo would remain in place.
well, that's what I,
So that would be $5.
yeah, okay. that is-
$5.80.
yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I thought, no, if we've got a motion on the books, we've lost it, but actually, yeah, what we've got.
Yep.
All right, so I am now putting the substantive motion.
Okay, so the substantive motion is that we proceed with option 2, increasing the natural heritage rate to $15 per property. Again, I'll call your names. Can you indicate whether you support, oppose?
There's a vote. I would actually like to make a comment in that I've often said to my constituency, I would like to be, sorry, I would rather be voted out of office for doing the right thing than doing the wrong thing just to get re-elected. I'll leave it at that.
All right, I'm going to, let's put this motion.
I'm trying to vary the order a little bit, so
But I'm ready this time. I'm ready.
that makes it even harder.
No, it's not.
Okay, so councillor Dunbar Smith,
Oppose.
councillor Hughes,
Abstain.
councillor Graff,
Oppose.
councillor Strange,
Support.
councillor Nicol, councillor Hodge,
Support.
councillor Downard,
Oppose.
councillor Smith, councillor Cookson,
Oppose.
councillor Kneebone,
Support.
councillor Mahuta,
Support.
councillor Ma,
That's not 3. Support.
councillor Clarkson,
Support.
councillor Story.
Support.
The motion is carried 9 votes to 4 with 1 abstention.
All right. Next up. Thank you, Patrick. Sorry. Did you make some additional coffee?
Moving on.
All right, so this is in relation to the public transport investment. We have a draft motion that says, having taken into account the submissions made and points raised, council proceeds with option 1. That is the regional, Waikato Regional Council rating for public transport services across the region. And we have added point 2, that council in partnership with territorial authorities develop further implementation options for consultation in the 2025-2026 annual plan.
So
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Strange.
Should have my mic on first.
All those in favor?
Division, madam.
Sure. All right. Oh, God. Oh, sorry. I thought that was an entire stack.
No, it's a stack.
How many things are we voting on?
So this one is obviously the public transport investment. Please indicate whether you support, oppose or abstain. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Graff.
Support.
Councillor Nicol,
Support.
Councillor Hodge,
I support.
Councillor Downard,
Oppose.
Councillor Strange,
Support.
Councillor Dunbar Smith,
Support.
Councillor Smith, Councillor Cookson,
Support.
Councillor Kneebone,
Support.
Councillor Mahuta, Councillor Ma, Councillor Clarkson,
Support.
Councillor Story.
Support.
The motion is carried, 13 votes to 1.
All right. Next one. So this is in relation to Huia. So we've got, the council notes the announcement of the NZTA board to continue subsidy funding at an enhanced financial assistance rate of 70% for the 2024-25 financial year and 60% for 25-26 financial year to the end of the trial, and acknowledges this in a letter to the NZTA board chair. The council approves funding for Huia, continuation of existing services to the end of the 5-year trial, then potential for future service enhancements from 2026 to 27. The renewal of the rolling stock is not part of this decision. The council approves the use of the Huia targeted rate reserve to fund the difference between the targeted rate revenue set out in the LTP and a 30% contribution to costs after fares in 2024-25 and a 40% contribution to the cost after fares in 25-26 to the end of the trial in April 2026. And finally, that council commits to reconsideration of the rates revenue contributed to Huia costs as part, not at part. Is it at? As part. As part of the completion of the 5-year review in mid-2026, ahead of determining a commitment to the continuation of the service within the 26-27 annual plan and 27-37 long-term plan. Do I have a mover?
Yeah, happy to move. Just with the end of the startup period, April 26, not really tying up with financial years, is that an issue? Thank you.
Through the chair, I think the advice from the NZTA board was to, in terms of that 60% funding, to no later than 30th of June. So what that actually means.
We're just,
To the reserve,
we've got a, okay, so I've got a mover in Councillor Strange and a second in Councillor Mahuta. We're just checking some wording.
So Madam Chair, you've used the word April. I can't see it up there, but you've got mid-year there. So
Did I
you
use
said
the
April
word?
26.
Did I
the yellow?
misspeak? Oh, no, it does say, yeah, at the last line.
Oh,
April
April, yeah,
22nd.
sorry, I need new glasses.
Oh.
I just noted, Councillor Strange, that you called it startup. In the wording, it's trial. I've just checked with the director that it's semantics and it probably doesn't matter.
All right, so I have a mover and a seconder for this motion. Division has been, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Councillor
sorry if I
Marr?
could just talk to this briefly. I'm in support of this, using those reserves. I'd just like to state my real concern about where it goes from here in that longer term. We've talked about looking further out, etc. Yeah, once that funding drops to 51%, if there's not further input from other funders or something like that, then this is going to be a real burden. So I'd just like that noted that that's a real concern for me, but happy to support as it sits now and being able to use those reserves. Thank you.
Councillor Mahuta?
Totally support what you're saying, Warren, but I just really think that if we don't give it the full, then we will never have the data to back into. It'll always be just a pilot that we never really piloted or programmed, one. Two, I'm hoping that the PPP opportunities being developed under this particular government will mean we might find other kind of partners to fund some of our activities.
All right, we've had a division called.
Alrighty, if you can indicate whether you support, oppose or abstain. Councillor Smith.
I will support it, but I have the same reservations as others.
Councillor Cookson.
Yeah, I'll support it and the same as Councillor Smith has just said.
Councillor Kneebone.
Yeah, support.
Councillor Mahuta.
Support.
Councillor Ma.
Support.
Councillor Clarkson.
Support.
Councillor Story.
Support.
Councillor Strange.
Support.
Councillor Dunbar Smith.
Oppose.
Councillor Hughes.
I don't like barbed wire, so I'm opposing it.
Councillor Graff.
Support.
Councillor Nicol. Councillor Hodge.
I support.
Councillor Downard.
Support.
The motion is carried 12 votes to 4.
Got the two.
12 to 2, sorry. I was counting Councillor Mahuta's extra.
Extra votes
One
for the
from-
previous one. All right, what have we got next? All right, so that having taken into account of submissions and points raised, council proceeds with option 1, which is that council discontinues the RDF. I have a mover in Councillor Marr and a second in Councillor Dunbar Smith. Anybody wish to speak to this? Nope. All right, we'll go with the division again. Oh, sorry, yes,
I just
Councillor
think
Mahuta.
I'm speaking against the motion, although I know I'm a minority, just because I still think that we are a regional enabler as council. And just because we don't know what we want to do in economic development doesn't mean we won't need money at some stage. So I think it's just premature suspending the fund before we have a plan. Kia ora.
All right, we'll go. Oh, sorry, Councillor Nicol.
Yeah, I'll just comment some, my thought, I totally hear where Councillor Mahuta is coming from. And I've wrestled with it myself, and I suppose I just landed on the other side of saying we will close this and then we will come up with something. But it's the in-between phase where I suppose we, like I've said before, surprise ourselves with our agility to come up with that in a fairly short time frame, hopefully. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And look, I hear both the previous speakers. The reality for me is that we need to do something, but if we weren't happy with what was, how it was being worked and how, and we've got about 3.7 million, I understand. So we have money in the bank ready to go for once we decide what we're going to do. So that's why I'm going to support this. Thank you.
Councillor Strange.
Yeah, just briefly, sort of along the same lines as Councillor Mahuta. Yeah, we do need to do something, acknowledge previous discussions around this. Also acknowledge as well the good things that have come out of the RDF so far for the whole region. So yeah, looking forward to where we go with regional economic development, but just acknowledging those beneficiaries so far of that and looking forward to continuing that work.
All right.
Last one.
Sorry, Councillor Hodge, did you?
So I understand this continuation of this, but have we got a plan for where it's actually going, or is it just going to sit somewhere? Plan to plan. That's great, because, you know, Warren, this would have been where you could have got your sugarloaf money from, but hey, you know, you lost it then, right?
No, so definitely not lost, set aside, still held in a reserve pending further conversations around what the future looks like.
All right, let's put the motion.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor, just reminding you all this is a vote. If carried, that will discontinue the Regional Development Fund. I'll call your names and let me know if you support, oppose or abstain. Councillor Cookson.
Agree or support.
Councillor Kneebone.
Yeah, and support the corridor repurposing it. Yeah.
Councillor Mahuta.
Opposed.
Councillor Ma.
Support.
Councillor Clarkson.
Support.
Councillor Story.
Support.
Councillor Strange.
Sorry. No, nothing. Open mind. Open mind as always. Support.
Councillor Dunbar Smith.
Support.
Councillor Hughes.
Abstain.
Councillor Graff.
Support.
Councillor Nicol.
I have faith. We'll do this quickly. Support.
Councillor Hodge.
I'm going to abstain.
Councillor Downard.
Support.
Councillor Smith.
Support.
So the motion is carried, 11 in support, 1 opposed, 2 abstentions.
All right, so the next one is in relation to Tuaka. And what this notes is that council directs staff to continue to work with key stakeholders to develop the appropriate structure to support regional economic development for the region.
Moved.
I just
Yep.
wonder, it should be direct staff to continue to work with key stakeholders and the council. Just in light of I don't know, it's just a suggestion, but if majority don't think it's right, I'm okay with it, but. Was it, maybe it's implied, I don't know.
I think it's, yeah, I think it's implied in
Another
our staff, but yeah. All right, so that was moved by Councillor
Happy to
Dunbar
second.
Smith. Seconded by Councillor Kneebone.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm Stu may have asked the question, but my concern here is that work towards staff getting it in place, and I've certainly on record as saying we need something in place. My concern is that we were provisioning 750,000 from the RDF for 3 years. My concern is we will need to pass a resolution at some stage, should we get something in place, and should we foreshadow that. I'm concerned that right, the question was asked, do we fund Te Waka? That's been, it's, yeah, that's been dealt with. So, but what are we going to do and provide for economic development activity in the region? Should something be brought to bear?
So the RDF, as was indicated in the previous motion, the RDF fund, since we have discontinued it, the funds
The
of
reserve
which,
still sits
the
there.
reserve still sits there, of which we intended to draw upon for
Absolutely,
Waka.
but I'm just
So that
wanting to know-
fund is still there. The idea with this direction to staff is that staff will come back with, this is what provision would need to be made available.
So
To
accept that,
anticipate what that provision might be now,
but-
I don't think we have sufficient.
So what I'm
Information.
concerned about is this resolution that we have on the books in front of us sufficient to signal to the wider community, perhaps even government, that we are strongly in support of having an economic, regional economic activity in this region, and that we have funds to actually do that if we can actually get going again. So it's not affecting the rate, it's not a rating impact, but I'm just wanting to see if this is enough or whether we should be foreshadowing by way of a comment in there. And further that, should a regional, we will look at funding at an appropriate rate, blah, 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 depending on the circumstances.
That's for a drawdown of
Well,
sufficient funds as
What if we said that, so we've got, in light of the decision of the Te Waka Board to cease operations, and noting this council's support for economic development, or the need for economic development, or the imperative for economic development in the Waikato region, the council directs staff? What about that? What about just, is that a?
Noting that we have funds at hand should, we have funds at hand that we can.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I was just going to say, it could be added that you said something like, and allows for a drawdown of sufficient funds as required. I mean, from the RDF as required.
But we don't.
I would have thought that would be a subsequent recommendation to come back to
It would come
council.
back to council.
But won't that require an annual plan process?
No.
Right?
Can I help?
But
The report to council.
I need you to have the mic.
All I want to do is go back to my point, is that can we signal that we have money at hand, should we choose to use it to support it?
So, and I think we can do that. If you go back to the previous resolution where it just outlined all the steps, I think providing a bit more narrative now gives the indication that we're talking about to the wider community. And rather have it as industry stakeholders to make it an economic, because there's community and everybody else, but they're the group that need to feel that we're going to work with them. And
But
whoever that is.
as well, though.
It is industry and stakeholders, but they're the group, I guess, that would see us stepping away from regional development, stepping away from Te Waka, that might need a reinforced message. But if we could have at least 2 more bits, which is why yesterday I was trying to make it time bound, when are we going to come back with this? End of our term? Next LTP?
Support the time.
All right, well, we need some words, though. I need some words. Yeah, let's do that. We'll adjourn for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Shares. Come on.